Okay. All right. Dating apps it is.
Yeah, you're gonna have to lead this one because I haven't been on a
Innovation.
dating app in
Right.
years. So
Yeah,
I
but
don't,
you
I don't,
presumably still remember the experience.
absolutely, I remember the experience. And
Okay.
I think maybe my original experience. So this is long enough that I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. We even touched on it a little bit before we started recording. Like my only experience was using OkCupid.
A classic.
A classic, so much of a classic that, and I know this has happened to me and a few people in my peer group at some point where somebody, like I've done this, and I know at least a couple other people have done this, where we're actually trying to reference the Radiohead album OK Computer and accidentally being so ingrained in using OkCupid that you say OK Cupid instead of OK Computer. And it's very embarrassing funny that had happened at some point. But yeah, that was the only one that I ever used. So I don't know anything really about Tinder. I don't know anything about JDate or Farmer Wants a Wife or
Christian
whatever.
Mingle.
Christian Mingle. Yeah, I'm not on any of those anymore.
You're saying you were at one point on Christian Mingle, or?
Well, you know, maybe for a week. No, I did OkCupid for, oh man, I don't know. I think the problem was that the first time that I did it, it worked out very well because I found somebody within, you know, a couple of weeks, and we met, and then we were together for a year and a half. So the relationship didn't work out, but the app worked out because I found somebody, and I think maybe that ruined it for me because it worked out, and I thought maybe it would work out again. And then I was on it soon after that. You know, maybe after like a couple of months of like recovering from the breakup or whatever, I got back on, and then I was on there for several months, and it was not a good experience. And I kind of imagine that is more the typical experience on a dating app, is just being on there for probably longer than you should be and not having great experiences.
Yeah, and I would say that the phrase not having great experience makes it sound like the experience is bad. I don't necessarily think that's the case. It's more just to precisely say that in general, you don't have a great experience. Meaning, my experience with dating apps in general just has been you meet people who you have some measure of compatibility with, and you meet them in person, and you just don't click for whatever mysterious biological reasons there are, and you end up having like an okay chat, but you kind of just it's just like, okay, well, that was a 2-hour diversion, and then now I will return to the dating app that I've chosen and continue to look around.
Yeah, because there's always another option.
Yeah, there's always another option. You know, I don't know how much that has to do with it exactly. I mean, I think it is true that if you have criteria in your mind that you're looking for, I think that's going to maybe that are all deal breakers. That's definitely going to shape your willingness to kind of just go along with hanging out with somebody who you might have some like interest in. And I think that the apps definitely they exacerbate that issue.
Well, they must. I mean, because everyone has their desires and the things that they're not willing to put up with. And when you turn that into basically shopping, you know, it's like dating in the real world doesn't work like shopping, because I guess it's so much easier to okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing like the swiping right or left is an acceptance or a rejection of somebody, is how I understand it. And
yes,
it's much
and that's a Tinder only thing. In fact, they've trademarked that.
Yeah, so the idea being that you can, it's so much easier to cast a wide net in that way. And it was the same on OkCupid, where it was like you like somebody's page, or you sent, I don't know, I don't remember exactly what it was, but you indicate that you're interested, and then if they indicate that they're also interested, it tells you, and then you start a conversation. I think it's to limit the amount of people that you can just message outright or something like that. But
yeah, to avoid
real world
spamming people. Yeah,
in the real world, if you see somebody that you are attracted to, going up and talking to them is opening yourself up to a much deeper rejection that hurts more, I think. because it's a face-to-face rejection, as opposed to just saying, well, maybe they'll like me too, and I can forget about it an instant later because there's literally 1,000 options, especially in a place like New York City, you know, 1,000 options of people that you might want to, you know, date or chat with or go for coffee or whatever. So that's got to be part of it, you know, is like knowing if this person speaks in a way or has a value that I don't align with, or, you know, doesn't look the way I want them to look or whatever, that you would just very easily discard them like something in a shopping cart, then, you know.
Specifically a digital shopping cart, actually.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, exactly. One where there's no tangibility to it whatsoever. It's
I was
the
just
same
thinking
thing.
there are plenty of times when one might be in a physical shopping mart and you end up at the checkout line and maybe you have like a tomato that you didn't really want, but you know, you check out with it anyway.
Yeah, there goes. Well, but I mean, isn't that part of it? And maybe, you know, this should maybe be more of a conversation about social media in general, which is a much bigger thing. And I think I have more actual distaste for it than things that I like about it. But it's just in the fact that, you know, if I'm arguing with you on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, it's very akin to calling somebody a fucking asshole when you're driving and there's a window and then space and then another window and another person in the car next to you. It's like, I would never do that to somebody who I was just like shopping next to,
Yeah.
you know, like in a grocery store or on the street, unless the offense was actually that egregious. And, you know, maybe my feelings on this are too blanketed, and I don't know how people are actually behaving on these platforms or how they're actually coming to their relationships or leaving their relationships. But my sense is that because people can shop and they can discard people, they forget that a lot of relationships are just about compromise. And inevitably you are going to be with somebody that's going to do things you don't like, and you have to figure out whether or not that's okay enough for you. But when you have, you know, 10 other people potentially waiting on your list of people that you could date, oh, well, you know, Megan over here, well, she's alt-right, I can't deal with that, like that's legitimate. But doesn't like shrimp, can't possibly deal with somebody who doesn't like shrimp. I'll just go to the next person because I got to be with somebody who likes shrimp. It's like, is that actually a deal breaker for you, or do you just have other options out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, because these apps make it easy for you to like trivially pre-filter people based on these like fairly, I'm not going to say shallow, but well, they're a little bit superfluous, like issues, like, yeah, okay, they like shrimp or whatever. It's just easy to do it en masse and not to, like you say, compromise. I think that like the flip side is that meeting people and dating people the old-fashioned way is fraught with a lot of issues that aren't often like revealed as such. And like, okay, I mean, if you see somebody that you're attracted to in public, there's a whole lot of concerns that are in your mind. There's like, and a lot of it isn't just, oh, okay, this person might reject me. It's also that it tends to happen more in public. I think, you know, you see somebody, it's like, okay, well, there's the social problem of like, you know, whatever, leaving the group or situation that I am with, entering a different situation, possibly a different social circle to talk to the person, deciding if it needs to be direct or if it's better to kind of like, no, just, you know, maybe get to know the group first and then like see if something happens. So there's a lot of subtlety and situational things that come into play when you're doing it in real life. And, you know, I do think that you know, let me go back. I guess what I mean to say is beyond just the courage that is sometimes required to like approach somebody in real life and sort of just face the idea that like, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable for a second and I might get rejected and that's fine. There's just this huge social complexity around it that just makes it like awkward anyway, on
Right.
top of
Yeah.
whether or not you're successful. And then on the app, because the app doesn't have that, it just reduces the cost. It reduces the overall cost of approaching people. And so you can approach theoretically a lot of people in a given day, and you can reject a bunch without having to really consider anything too deeply.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's, it's nuanced, there's no one way in which to do it on either side, like there's no one way in which to find a relationship in the quote unquote real world. And there's no,
Right.
one way to do it on a dating app. And if you are using social media in which to do that, it allows you to hyperanalyze without
Right.
the rest of the world witnessing you hyperanalyzing the scenario, which is
Right.
like something that, I mean, we call it hyperanalyzing, 2 generations ago would call it cold feet,
Yeah.
where it's, yeah, oh wow, that person is so attractive and I want to talk to them, but we're in a grocery store. It's like, do I really want to approach them at a grocery store? Like, that's not really a social place. They're just trying to get their groceries and go home, or they're
Yeah, is it
working.
appropriate in this situation to approach somebody, or is it creepy?
Right.
I would say
Yeah.
that people want to be creepy about as much as they want to be racist. It's like nobody
Right.
wants
Or
to be considered a creep.
perceived as such.
Yeah,
And
perceived as such. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of different scenarios that can lead to that. I guess part of the problem with this conversation is that, everyone's situation is different. And as is popular to say on the internet, your mileage may vary regardless
Right.
of what your scenario is. I tend to prescribe to the theory that the less you are looking,
Mhm.
the better your odds are,
Mhm.
because as long as you are working on yourself or doing the things that you enjoy, the best relationships come up organically.
Right.
It's to go out in search of it at a bar because that's where the people you are interested might be congregating. You're probably better off like, oh well, I really like ultimate frisbee or something, and then joining a group, just because that's something you enjoy doing, and hoping
Yeah.
that you will find somebody who's also interested in that, and that can be a good anchor
Yeah.
just to get the thing going. And of course, that's not going to work every single time, but it's I think it's at least adding some sort of enrichment to your life in the process, as opposed to something like social media that's not enriching your life while you do it. The only thing that is enriching, I guess, is your ability to read fast or be real good at scrolling, or assessing things in an instant.
I
I don't
think
know
you
what
are
real.
onto something where, okay, I suspect that at least a non-zero percentage of the users of dating apps are subconsciously using them as basically time waster games.
Hmm.
In the same
Yeah,
way
yeah.
that somebody might just idly be playing Snood or whatever other match 3 style game is
Sorry,
available on
does Snood still exist? Is that still a game that
I
people
hope
play?
so.
Do you play Snood?
No, I do not currently play Snood. I have no idea as to the status of Snood. It
I'm
could
so
still
sorry.
exist.
I'm so sorry to have derailed your train of thought
That's
there
fine.
with that, but you just kind of, short-circuited my brain by bringing up something I'd totally forgotten about, but
Yeah.
instantly remembered. Go on. Yeah, people treat it like a game. Go
Yeah,
on.
like effectively, like, okay, I could be on the subway playing Candy Crush or Fruit Ninja or whatever, whatever of those time waster games, or I could be playing Hinge and flipping through people, seeing if they're compatible, maybe sending them a cute little sort of sassy message or something to get their attention. And nothing ever comes of it, but I was entertained for approximately 20 minutes, and fine. So anyway, I guess all I'm saying is, like, I think a lot of people use the app that way, and I think I kind of sometimes use that app that way as well, where I'm thinking to myself, what do I want to do this weekend? Like, do I want to go out, get on a train, go on the subway to some like middle location at a coffee shop or a bar or whatever, park, whatever it is, talk with somebody, go through that whole situation. It's probably going to go nowhere. The conversation might be a little bit strained. And or like, do I just like kind of basically want a 20-minute diversion just to see what's out there?
Yeah, you raise an interesting point. That's I guess something I hadn't really considered, just because when I was using it, it was for the purpose of finding somebody to spend time with
Yeah.
on a regular basis, like that's how I was using it. But there are I'm not going to say an infinite number. There's probably something like 20 reasons why you could use a dating app, you know, and everyone's reason for that is different. It's like, oh, I just want to get laid, or, you know, oh, I just want a free lunch. I definitely need to get more subscribers to my Instagram, so I'm going to go on there. You know, it's like there's
There
a
is some of
bunch
that.
of results that could come from the use of the app, and
Yeah.
everyone's is different. So I guess, you know, if that's what you're doing it for, then, you know, more power to you, because you found a good platform that can allow for that sort of thing. But I guess if you're a little bit more old fashioned, or you're actually using it for the in sort of poetry and reality, like the romance of it, you know, like then your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's there are like deficiencies of these apps that are like at least worth talking about a little bit, just things that make them just not work so well, even despite the more general problems with them, which are kind of like always like the problems we've talked about so far are just like problems that will always exist with these types of applications, you know, whether it's old school OkCupid or Hinge or anything in between, Bumble. These are all like classic things. But one thing I've noticed for sure, in terms of deficiencies is Hinge, for example, has you set a radius in miles for like how far away the person can be,
Yeah.
which makes sense. You know, like I don't want somebody who's more than 5 miles away. And that shows up in the app as like a deal breaker. Like I don't, basically that means don't show me anybody who is outside of this radius, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to date somebody from Connecticut, right? Well, if they're from Connecticut, that's fine. But if they currently live there, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but in New York City, a mile radius is not telling you a lot. It means they could be in Manhattan, they could be in Queens, they could be right in my neighborhood, or they could be in a weird place where like I still have to, for some reason, take 3 subway trains to get to them, right? And so again, the apps are filled with these just little things that don't quite work well enough situationally for them to like be really adequate as filters for finding people that you have compatibility with.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's why I was laughing when you said that, because it's like I live in Queens and I'm not far at all from a place like Jackson Heights, but that's as the crow flies. And it's like if I were looking for somebody and I saw that they lived at like, you know, the Roosevelt stop, it's like, oh man, that's like an hour for me to get there, you know, unless I take an Uber. It's like who wants to travel a whole hour? It's that's such a New York thing though, I feel like, because you can look at somebody who, I mean, here we are a great example of this. Like we are brothers, we are family. How often do we actually see each other? And it's like without the idea of a pandemic where getting on the subway is whatever, it's like we're a good hour away from one another. Like that's not nothing to like plan a visit for something.
We're maybe about 5 miles from each other as the crow flies ish.
Something like that. Yeah. But I guess the point just being that it's like, it's very easy for like an outside viewer to be like, well, why don't you ever see each other or hang out? It's like, well, it's, you know, it's kind of like you driving to like Columbia, Missouri or something, you know, it's like, it's a long way for us to do that. And it's,
when we see each other, it is planned. And it
for a
tends to
long
be
time.
at least a semi-special sort of occasion. I'm not saying full special, but like, I'd say we probably max at like once every 2 months.
Right.
And
that's
each time it's like, come over, spend several hours, we'll make dinner and we'll hang out and talk and have some wine. And then we'll
that is brothers. Not just some random person that you are potentially maybe gonna date for like a longer period of time. It's that is a special problem that I guess it's not unique to dating apps, but it's unique to the way it works or would work in a place like New York City where that's a lot to ask.
I mean, I'm maybe some, you know, smarty pants app developer has created a dating app that is like New York specific, or, you know, if they have, you know, I just hope that they're thinking about like the subway or like transit routes as being like a really core thing, because I'm actually talking about that. It's like, I need to be able to actually put like specifically like the valid subway stops at which a person may live for me to like reasonably consider like dating them.
Or it's that, or here are the areas in which I am regularly at
Yes.
that
Yes.
that would be convenient for me in which to
Yeah.
meet up, where it's like my office is at 34th and Lex.
Yeah.
So if you're there and do you want, if you
Great.
also, yeah, and there we go. We just solved it. It's like they just need to add those sort of qualifiers to it. Street Easy just added a recent one for apartment hunting, where if you want a particular amenity, like say for example, I really want a place that has a balcony or a private outdoor space. Before, if I use that function and put that, it would reduce my hits by a lot, but maybe it's not a priority. So now they have a little must-have tab on it, where if it's clicked, then it'll only show you private outdoor spaces. But if it's not, then it'll show you other things in addition to that, which is maybe a way some of these apps need to like quantify based on where you are. Like, yeah, 3 miles is fine, but I'm not getting on the L train, and I'm not, not going past Prospect Park, and like that's as far as I'll take it.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's total transit time. It's other issues. Is it on the way, convenient? And I don't know. That's just adding to all the other issues with like, what kind of food you like and all that stuff. It is another angle of this, which is interesting, is because these platforms, because these apps give one a platform to kind of like talk about oneself, people will tend to use that. And I think that can be gratifying in and of itself. At least I'm judging that to be the case based on like the types of things that people will write in their profile. So, like I would say like 15 to 20, well, let's say 15% of, this is at least the women that I see on the app, explicitly say that like you need to be like leftist liberal to even qualify. They're like, you must be. And it's clear that it's like, I think that in real life, if you probably met and like figured things out, like if I was like, I'm actually more of a moderate liberal, not a leftist liberal, I think it would be okay, and it could work out. But because like it's more like they're using the platform to say something.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier with the whole road rage thing with the cars and windows, and where it's like, if you're getting in an argument on Twitter, it's like, number one, I probably don't want to spend the actual time to argue on a platform like that. I've probably written things out and deleted them before posting them more often than I've actually like engaged in any sort of conversation, because it's like screaming into a cave. They're not actually receiving it. And the better way to deal with that is, why don't we have a coffee and we can actually talk about this, because then we can be civil people. We won't yell at each other. We won't, maybe we'll actually learn something if we actually engage face to face. And that's the similar thing with any dating app. It's like, are your deal breakers really deal breakers? And how you present yourself? I don't know. I guess what that makes my mind go to, and just as a general question, is can narcissism be quantified in a percentage? And what do you think how do you think that averages out via your average, dating profile?
Just in terms of how much narcissism is a function, or like kind of a factor in what somebody.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think it's probably fairly significant. I mean, you get profiles that really run the gamut. Some are just very sincere. It's like, like I'm looking for somebody to connect with, and we back each other up, and we, all that kind of stuff. And some people are very much more just like, they're beautiful, like professionally taken photos, and like one of the answers to the questions is just like their Instagram handle. And it's clear that that's just more about maybe I don't want to call it, narcissism is maybe too strong a word, but vanity for sure would be how I would describe a fair number of the profiles.
Yeah. As always, you tend to have a more reasonable look at things, because vanity is probably the better word. I just tend to use narcissism because that's what it appears to be to me, but that's a very extreme thing, like narcissism. As much as I do believe that our society is like pretty narcissist, like in general, that is a much kinder way in which to look at it, is vanity. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It sounds to me like, after actually thinking about it, which I don't do very often. I'm only on a couple of things for social media, and I'm not on any dating apps. I don't really think about it too much, but it sounds like I have this hammer, and man, is that thing great at crushing garlic. It's like not the intended use for the hammer.
Yeah.
And that's part of it where it's like, yeah, if it works for you that way, that's great. But it's like, I don't know. Since people aren't necessarily using it the way it's supposed to be used, a lot of people are going to go away feeling pretty bad either about themselves or about their situation in general. So I guess it's just like with anything, there should be some sort of like warning on every one of these social media apps that's like, for Instagram, it should be like, look, this app is going to give you a false sense of how great people's lives are. It's going to make you feel bad about your body and all these different things. Every app should come with that. I don't know if maybe they do. Maybe it's in like the terms and conditions, like known to cause psychological damage. Tinder, like that would be probably accurate, but we wouldn't read it anyway, though. I don't think.
Yeah, no, it would. So yeah, if you actually people actually did, they would be much like even just today without that stuff, they'd probably be hesitant about all the data they're giving away about themselves and all that other stuff.
But, oh no, they wouldn't. Would they?
Well, if you really knew, if you really knew the extent to which like extremely detailed and occasionally like intimate facets of your life can easily be like at least inferred by like your usage of these apps, I think people would maybe be a little bit more hesitant, but they just think of it as being kind of a wash because like, oh, well, it's like I'm just a drop in the bucket of this huge fucking data stream that these big mega corporations are just like churning out. But that data does exist, and like
I just don't think
you just don't think people would really care.
No, I don't think they care. I think this whole thing has been proven.
Yeah. Well,
just in the pandemic, it's just like, all that was being asked of people was to like care a little bit, just like
take the smallest possible
exactly
inconveniences on their shoulders in order to protect other people.
Yeah, it's I think the proof is there. And it's also like, how many times were we warned by what's his face, the guy, you look like him, that guy, who I'm talking about. Come on. He's in Russia. He was the one who like exposed the NSA.
Snowden.
Yeah, Snowden. Thank you. It's like It's like he was right there in front of us and being like, look, this is bad. And people were like, nah, I don't have anything to hide. It's fine. Like, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. It's not,
Right. Well, I guess really I think people cared in the I had an emotional reaction to it sense, but they didn't care in the sense that I will actually be changing significant parts of my life sense
to do anything about it. I think it's a very rare person who's actually going to do anything about it.
And I'm among those. I think both of us are like clearly.
Yeah, same. Well, like we're using Zoom right now. It's like I'm just going to assume that Zoom is like funneling this recording onto some server somewhere where it will exist. And in the next 10 years, when the technology is I'm
gonna test that next time. I'm gonna actually just try turning off the Wi-Fi, just in the case that there is a cloud connection like necessarily required for the recording itself to work. Obviously we need the connection in order for us to, but like recording the video, I don't know. But
it's God, it's when you see those things. Here's a question: do any of these apps that you're talking about that you've already referred to as games, are there games inside the apps?
The dating apps?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of. Okay, so there are explicit games, right? That one might imagine, like, okay, there's like collaborative version of Snake that you can play with this person you connected with, and it's fun. There are a lot of like gamified interactions in some of the apps, like Tinder in particular is just like filled with them, all these incentives, and I don't remember because honestly I stopped using Tinder because I found it so unpalatable, but it's just every single thing is like an opportunity to like upsell you into a purchase, or you're accumulating some number of points, or whatever. Hinge has this concept of roses where like you can like as many people as you want, but a rose is like a super like kind of thing, which I think is actually what Tinder calls it. And you only get one to start. And I think, oh, I only have one. It's like in a game. Oh, I only have one super special magic potion to use. Better save that one up. And,
So the answer is yes, there are. I wasn't necessarily saying
gamified interactions, but no actual games that I know.
I'm not saying like you open up Tinder and then you can play snood. But it's like there are ways, I guess,
Tinder, if you're watching this, Where's Snood?
Where is Snood anyway? It's like, that's a good question. Snood is kind of the original, like, I guess there's like other sort of bubble sort of games, right? And it's like the whole concept is like matching a color and things like fall or
Yeah,
whatever.
they're called match 3 games generically. That's like what that
Match
game
three.
is called.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's the next dating app. It's going to be for threesomes only. It's going to be called Match
match
3.
3,
And part
and
of it
you
is just
play match 3 games. I love it.
everyone's, yeah, the instead of the little goofy avatars or whatever, it's just people's faces, all then you got a match 3 and
I
that's
like the
perfect.
full integration of the theme into this.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty solid. Yeah.
Solved it.
One thing that just popped in my head that I just like feel like I have to mention is from scanning through, I'm not going to say swiping because again I'm using Hinge, but a lot of profiles, you start to see patterns and these sorts of in what people post, and it is you tend to you start making generalizations. You're like, okay, like this is like an extraordinary number of women on the app really like Nathan Fielder. Just so you know, like I would say that 10% of all profiles are like really into him.
And
Like,
so do they
like
just,
it's
so
like
is it like the meme where it's like nobody says nothing and then person says I love Nathan Fielder, or is this, I don't understand. They just
like they'll
drop the
somehow
meme.
mention him. It's like, okay, nobody's mentioning, I don't know, LeBron James. Nobody's mentioning Julian Assange. Nobody's mentioning like all these possible people that you could mention, like celebrities that you could mention in the app. Nobody's like really talking about them.
Yeah.
Nathan, though, a lot of mentions of him in the app.
Okay.
So I tend to see this, and a customer was like, "Oh, you know, this is just." I put them in a category. They're the type of person that like mentions him in their profile, and I don't think I'm really similar to him. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna X that one out because they're not looking for me. But anyway, like
So
what well, I was gonna say, I'll just say, I'll let you after I say this, which is it would be nice if the apps actually let you, well, if there's an easy way for you to see what other people in your category were putting for their profiles. Like I would like to know what other 38-year-old straight men in Brooklyn are putting about themselves on their profile. So I can see, am I like the most basic, like boring person? Or am I saying something like slightly original and appealing here enough to like maybe get people to like me, right?
I
So
mean, I guess you could just change your settings for a day
and then
to just be like, yes, I'm looking for men who are in Brooklyn who are straight in this age range, and then just look at their
I don't
profile.
know if Hinge lets you do that. I don't know if it's trivial to do. It might be something you kind of have to set up from the start. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But still, I think
Okay.
it would be worth doing just because, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you just want to know how you stack up
Yeah.
against
My
at least.
greatest fear is not being forever alone. It's just being seen as basic, So
Yeah. I will tell you this much, and this is not meant as to work into that fear, but there have been more than a few times when just walking around the city, I see somebody who I feel like looks very similar to you, and I think it's you, and it's not you.
yeah.
It's the height, because you're tall, you're like 6'3", which
Oh,
has got to work in your favor,
I'll
right?
be the first to admit that there's probably at least like 10,000, maybe no, 50,000 like 6'1" to white men, mid to late 30s, who wear like Moscot glasses frames, walking around here.
Yeah.
And I see my doppelganger every day. I was
Yeah.
watching the HBO show How To with John Wilson, which by the way is amazing.
Great
But
show.
when you finally, there are some scenes where you see him, and I'm like, there's a
Yeah.
resemblance. Like if I
There's a
could,
resemblance.
I could pass for John Wilson.
It's like if you actually look at the person, look similar, but it's like the styling is very similar,
Yeah.
where it's the
If you
glasses, the
squint,
haircut. Yes.
like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, they're the same.
Just the sort of essence of a human being. It's like, oh yeah, it's the blocky form.
No, I know I'm like super basic, but that's also a fact of New York City, where it's like if you're like if you're like unique
Well,
in St.
I
Louis,
don't
New York,
think.
it's like many of you, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You basically said what I was going to say, is that, yeah, I don't think you are, and just drop you in a different scenario. Like the amount of stares that I got when I was in like Southern Oregon, like 6 years ago, just on a trip, because I did not fit in, just having like thicker rimmed glasses, like that alone. Like, I don't think my style is really like that out of the box or hipster or anything, you know, I mean, compared to like actual hipsters or whatever,
Yeah.
but in Southern Oregon, you know, or like mid on the
Thick frame
coast.
glasses, a hoodie, you know,
Ugh,
like,
yeah. Where's your flannel? Like what's, yeah. All right. So I need to take 2 steps back because I want to either call this one correctly
okay.
or we'll just have to wait and see. The Nathan Fielder thing is I don't, it's hard to put this in a sentence, I guess, that encompasses what I mean. Do you know how some people seem to make liking The Office their whole personality?
Yes.
You know what I mean by that is like,
At least
well, what
that's
do
how it
you,
appears from the outside.
yes, it's like a large portion of their interests are, and also whether or not it's a joke or if it's truly, it's like I've watched it 10 times. Oh yeah, I just always watch, that's whatever.
Sure.
I'm wondering if there's got to be a lot of people on these apps who are saying that like, what am I interested in? TV shows that I like, The Office has to be like way up there on the #1 list. And I'm doubting that Nathan Fielder is making it on there in a similar way where it's like, no, I just love his stand-up and I love Nathan For You and he's my favorite. What I'm actually positing here is that Nathan is famous for kind of worming his way into the zeitgeist via like the whole like not Starbucks or fake Starbucks thing that he did. So I wonder, as part of his social experiment, was he like, I wonder, here's a problem is that I just fall into the background on all these apps and none of these girls want to date me. But I wonder, like, is there a way for me to be more popular on these dating apps? And has he like figured out a way in which to like get a lot of people to be like, I love that guy?
You know, I will hold that as a possibility in my mind. It's a little bit of an out there theory, but I like it at the same time.
Is it out there though, really? I mean, just consider the amount of people that maybe watch his show, that he was like, maybe he was trying to do this and then was like, can you please just mention me on your if you're watching this show, just mention me on your profile, you know? I don't know.
Okay.
Seems likely to me that it's possibly that, because your average person.
I mean, my assumption was that it was just more that, you know, there's the sad cuteness that he sort of, you know, has as a part of his persona, you know, the kind of like, I'm just trying to make friends as being like a theme of it, even though he's like, you know, technically being like a real douchebag to a lot of these very sincere people. Like he just wants to be friends with you, etc. And I feel like that has some kind of like appeal because he's very funny, you know. He's bold, I think, you know, and to do the kind of stunts that he does, but he also has this other side that, anyway, so I think it's actual appeal. I think he must have a strange kind of sex appeal that that women feel like this is so my flavor that I need to like tell people about it on my dating profile. I need guys to know that this is.
So if you are anywhere remotely like this guy, then hit me up because I am into it. I wonder if anyone on their profile says in the About Me section exhibits sad cuteness.
Maybe I ought to think about putting that on my profile.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great DJ name too, I think.
I like it. Yeah,
DJ Sad Cuteness. Yeah, you can just fat beats from DJ Sad Cuteness. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about that without just evolving into you know, other things I hate about social media, the ones that I'm on, you know. It's like,
well, it's funny we touched on these subjects, you know. This has been this is like a hub and spoke kind of subject, right? Dating apps, you end up talking about things that suck about New York, things that suck about social media, things that talk about dating in general. So, you know, it's been a good one. I mean, I think go on.
You have to almost feels like the disclaimer for this is I don't actually hate most things, I promise. I just, you know, I've got a lot of thoughts about anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth, you know, we talk about things that are worth complaining about. You know.
Yeah, except The Fugitive.
True. We also just things of general quality, but all right, well, I mean, so my overall verdict on dating apps is actually, I don't recommend it. I think doing things the old-fashioned way is pretty much superior if you've got the stomach for just, you know, going out and actually talking to real people. I definitely do at this point. As a 38-year-old man, I'm really not like concerned that my confidence or whatever is going to get crushed by being rejected. It's more just that, why not use it? But don't use it for anything more than that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I feel the same. It's no, I let the buyer beware, I suppose. Figure out what it is you actually feel like your result is that you want.
Yeah.
And then try to align that with what you feel like the general usage is of the thing. It's like, I'm not gonna go to a diner to get healthy.
Got it. Yes. Good analogy. Yeah. Okay. I like it. All right.
Cool.
Well, this has been a good one. Until
Yeah.
next time.
Until next time.